Jake, I wonder if the people who only listen to this on Spotify or those audio only ones, if they're like, what is happening and why is there a song playing? If you're only with us on those, there are words on the screen. That's kind of like the general stuff that I usually say. I feel like I should make an alternate recording for the audio only people and like voice over maybe like a robot voice or Alexa voice, maybe. I have some options, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of fun stuff out there now. We could do it like in a Kermit voice or something. It'd be fun.
There you go. My Alexa is the Australian accent because Australian accents are really awesome, by the way. So if you have an Australian accent, I'm jealous. I don't know about you, Jake. I was kind of like bobbing my head there a little bit with
I love it. It's a catchy tune. I love it.
It's catchy, yeah. This is not a replay. This is for Tuesday's games. But look, Monday went so well, and the Orioles were so good to us. I'm in the same outfit because it's working. It worked. The only thing it did work is the Mariners decided to great comeback and then falling apart, and that's sports. But our pitcher prop of the day worked to a T, in that we said there were a lot of different ways that could play out and work for us, even if he pitched well. That's kind of what happened. He got hit hard. They didn't want to face a lineup at third time. We talked about that. We talked about how the Astros been hitting lefties and that kind of recent story that Marlins were bullpen happy. I feel like we nailed that one. He comes out after 5. We got that prop. The A+ play of the day was the Cardinals -1. They won by 2, got that. And while the Mariners have blown, it looks like we're going to get the Orioles and the Rays as well. One of those plus odds. So just a great night for us. And so it ain't broke. So we're not going to try to fix it,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Orioles have been one of the most fun teams to back, and almost blind back them at this point.
And it's kind of fun because now the people can see on screen. We are going to talk about the Orioles later. So that's a little teaser for that one in the show. But we're going to start off with 6:40 p.m. Eastern, Guardians at the Reds. A nice night in Cincinnati, maybe slightly on the chilly side, around 70 degrees, closing in the mid-60s. Wind will be blowing out to right center field around 10 miles an hour. So you're talking about a little bit of a chilly night for August there, but the wind blowing out is going to make it, it's already a hitter-friendly ballpark. It's not going to be, 100-degree weather, ball flying out with the ball. We'll kind of fly a little bit there. That's the reason why the total in this game is 9.5. Model projects 9.5, so I think 9.5 is a pretty good number. If it was at 9, I could be maybe talked to do it over in that park, but at 9.5, I think it's priced pretty well. We're going to focus instead on the side for this one, though. When you compare these two teams, the Guardians, so that offensive rating is with Jose Ramirez back in it. Of course, they lost Josh Bell, which hurt, and their offense was already struggling to start with. This Reds offense, pretty solid, right around league average, just below league average there with a 94 grade. Starter, pretty, even here, pretty close to even. And this is a situation that's kind of similar to the game we talked about yesterday with Brady Singer and Logan Gilbert. And I have to be honest with you, Jake, I did not see Brady Singer excelling at beating Gilbert by that much. I mean, he owned him, and I made the comment, I was like, this is what the model's trying to tell us, that the difference between these two guys is not what you think it is. That was a little bit of an outlier still. But the same situation here, that Logan Allen's ERA is about a 1.5 lower, but I don't think he's that much better than Ashcraft. I think he's better, but I don't think it's by much. It's a small difference. You look at the underlying metrics for these two guys. Ashcraft just doesn't fall that far behind him. Not as good, but not that far apart. Bullpens, both pretty average here. The biggest difference in this game is A, the location, and B, the Reds offense. And that's what makes the Reds 56% likely to win this game. According to Sideline, the price should be -125. Anything -108 or better is an A grade. We're going to play the Reds at -103. Gets into that A grade by a nickel. Jake, tell us more.
Yeah, I love the Reds here. I think their offense carries them through at home, especially with as young as they are. They should be a little bit more bonus at home. I think Ashcraft is just as good as Allen, and I think he's pitching better recently, and I think the bullpens are a big difference. I don't know that the Reds bullpen is getting enough credit for how well they're going, and I think the Guardians are on the opposite side of that. I think they're sliding more downhill, so I think we've got pretty good value here with the Reds.
I was really surprised to see the Guardians bullpen rated this low, especially after last couple of years. They've been one of the better bullpens in baseball. So I was really surprised to see the model not like them that much. Honestly, I have not paid a ton of attention to the Central, so I can't really talk on them as much as I can just say, here's what the model's doing. And, again, the A grades have been so good for the models. So we just kind of trust them, even though they sometimes don't necessarily always make sense. I think this one makes sense, though. Like you said, neither one of these teams is that great. They're both kind of floundering, both kind of very meh, both have some flaws. But I mean, this Reds offense at least is decent. I don't trust this Cleveland offense at all. I know they put up a ton of runs on Sunday against Tampa, but that's one off. Even bad offenses are going to do that on occasionally. Good offenses are going to struggle on occasion too. But this Reds offense a little bit better at being at home. I'm really surprised that we're getting minus 103. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But I feel like we're just here to take advantage of that, right?
Yeah, you got it. That's why you built the whole model, so we know when to take advantage of these mispriced lines.
Exactly. And I always find it funny when a line is like exactly on what the model says. It's like, oh, we completely agree, and I have no take on it whatsoever. Like this one, the total being 9.5. We do have one more pick for you on this one. Our pitcher prop of the day, Graham Ashcraft. We're going to go under 4.5 strikeouts. You can see here he has hit over this number in 3 of his last 4, and he has been pitching better as of late. But the key on this one, as you can see there, it's kind of small. You might have to squint your eyes there at that screenshot, but you can kind of see that Graham Ashcraft, not a high strikeout guy. Guardians #1 in the league in fewest strikeouts per game. Now that's on the season, so that is a little bit different going forward because of all the trades and everything like that. But I don't really think that the loss of Josh Bell is going to make them less of or more of a strikeout team. I still think this team they put the ball in play a lot, and it's going to make it hard for Ashcraft to get a lot of strikeouts. You can also see here on this next slide, I pulled his innings. He's gone deeper a couple of times here, and that's driven the high strikeouts. But you've seen here in the middle of the season a constant stretch of 6-inning starts. And in those 6-inning starts, he had a couple of high strikeout games, but a ton of 2s and 3s. And against the Guardians team that doesn't strike out, it feels like 2 or 3 is probably where he lands. Jake, what are your thoughts on this prop?
Yeah, I think the biggest part of this is the Guardians. They just don't strike out a lot. Getting rid of Bell actually, I think, helps that because
I think so
he's not a contact hitter by any stretch.
Yeah.
And I think Ashcraft is just not a strikeout guy. In those high strikeout games, it looks like, if I'm reading it correctly, it was like Washington Nationals, like one of those, and like Miami, and just not great offenses where he's taking advantage of. I think this offense in Cleveland, not great, but they just don't strike out. They just ground out or fly out. So I think this is a pretty easy prop to hit.
Yeah, one of those was earlier on in the season with San Diego, who's been an all-or-nothing offense all season. So it's like nothing can surprise you with the Padres. And again, we'll talk about that later on as well. That's just been who they've been all season. The last thing I want to say about this, because I think you kind of make a good point here, this Guardians offense not very good, but also doesn't strike out a lot. That's one of the reasons, one of the things that we've learned over the last 20 years in the analytic movement, right? That all teams are using these analytics, and all of us are a lot smarter than we were back 20, 30 years ago. And there was a time when strikeouts were viewed as a bad thing. And if you strike out, that means you're a bad hitter. And there is something to be said for if you are clueless striking out, that means you're probably a bad hitter. And if I got up there, I'd be clueless and I'd strike out. That would make me a bad hitter. But when you get to the major league level, the ability to not strike out or prevent the strikeout or whatever isn't extremely predictive. And I think that's a great thing that you see with this, or it's perfectly exemplified by the Guardians offense. They do a great job putting the bat on the ball. It's still not a good offense. And that's the thing, is in today's day and age of baseball, it's hard to score runs. Pitchers are so good. It's hard to get 3 singles in an inning. It's hard to get a bunch of things happening. And that's why, it's all about, extra base hits, getting free passes, things like that. This Guardians team, they don't strike out, but they also don't do the things needed to score runs. And so we've kind of learned over the last, like I said, 20, 30 years, that strikeouts aren't really correlated with success extremely. 50 years ago, you would have seen this Guardian strikeout rate, and you just said they're the best offense in baseball because it was just a different game. But today, the fact that they don't strike out doesn't really mean they're likely to win. It just means they don't strike out. And so we're going to go under Graham Ashcraft, 4.5 strikeouts here in Cleveland and Cincinnati. Don't forget, if you want to check out all of the fun things over on Outlier.bet, if you /professor that link in the show description, you can get a 7-day free trial, see all the plus expected value plays, all the metrics. They link seamlessly with the Big Four domestic sports books, where you can just click like a shopping cart, like an Amazon shopping cart, and then click a button. It'll take you right there to make those bets. A lot of good stuff there. Again, link in the show description, Outlier.bet /professor. Get you a 7-day free trial to check that out and see if you could win some money on the player props. Hopefully we can start off the week 2-0 there. That'll take us to 7:40 p.m. Eastern. Tigers at the Twins. I put the metrics on the screen here, but this is a game where we kind of know who the better team is. And this is another great example. You already mentioned it, and Cousin Jared likes to say it. This is why I built the model, because we all know the Twins should be favored. The only question is by how much. We're not afraid to take underdogs here. We're not afraid to take big favorites here, wherever the value lies. And without a model, I have no idea what number this should be, because it's like, well, the Twins are at home and they're better, but like, how much better, right? You can see the metrics on the screen. Obviously, their offense a lot better. Relievers actually not as not as big of a difference. They're better than Tigers. Tigers relievers are actually kind of decent this year. The biggest difference in this game, is going to be the starting pitchers. Bailey Ober has been pretty solid, 3.40 ERA, and the underlying metrics say maybe not quite that good, but not that far apart from it. Alex Fade, on the other hand, 5.80 ERA. And while the advanced metrics say it should be a little bit better than that, this is one of those things where you look at the ERAs and you say one pitcher is a lot better than the other, and that kind of tells the whole story here. So a pretty big edge on the Twins here. Another A-grade pick for you at -182. Sideline says this should be -245, that the Twins win the 71% of the time. Basically, anything that starts with a 1 is an A-grade play. Just remember, of course, when we talk about this, when you get out here to the -200s and beyond, the numbers on the line move a lot for every 1% move. So the difference between even money and -105 is about 1%. But a 5-cent move out here is not a 1% move. It's just a different scaling out here. So that's something to keep in mind, is that the percentage edge here is not quite as large as you would think, just based off of that minus. And that's why everything we do is with probability, and that's how I come up with that A-grade price. Just things jump a lot quicker out here. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. But anything that starts with a 1 is a fantastic investment, I think, on the Twins. Jake, you had a lot of options. There were a lot of A-grade plays today. If you're looking for all those A-grade plays and you're not with us already on Dub Club, check that out. That's links in the show description. Tons of A-grade plays today. Jake, you had a lot of options. Why did this one make the cut for you?
Like, it's not that deep. It's just the Twins are that much better, especially with Ober on the mound. Like, it's not that hard. I'm curious. I haven't looked it up to see what the line is, but what's the number on the -1.5, 2.5, whatever it is?
That is
I'm very tempted on that.
That's a great question. The current price, there would also be an A-grade right now. The current price is +110. The model says -104 or better would be an A-grade that the Twins can cover the run line 54% of the time. So anything plus odds or better would be a really good investment on that run line. Right now it's +110.
But yeah, that's where I'll be putting my money then, because I just think the Twins are that much better. Their offense seems to be on a little bit of a roll here. They've got the better pitcher, the better relievers. Sometimes you don't want to overthink yourself and try to be too smart.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we've talked about this, right? The whole, do you take the run line, do you take the -1, and if you don't have the option of -1, do like I've been doing, which is, again, bet to win a certain amount on the money line and then put that on the run line. And that way, if they win by 1 exactly, you push, you kind of make that market yourself if you don't have it available. And again, I've talked about this. My formula is basically, if the run line is minus odds, look to start looking to that right now. Right now, the run line's plus odds. Maybe I should be a little bit more aggressive with that. Maybe Twins -1 should be the pick here, right? Because we could get better odds if we did that. It's just the way I've coded it in. But either way, and we talk about, there's occasionally where the model will say one is a much better pick than the other. Model loves both of them here. You're going to win the money line pick more often, but you're getting worse odds for it. You're going to win the run line less often, but you're getting better odds for it. So I think it's a pretty reasonable give and take. I think it's whatever your personal preference is. Jake, you like the run line there. And I don't think that's a crazy play at all. You also have to wonder, as we get into mid-August and September, we just are going to start seeing some weird things in baseball. We talked about a weird Sunday, and that doesn't mean teams are giving up. It doesn't mean that players aren't trying. It just means you're going to see weirder things. You're going to see managers doing weirder things. You're going to see guys sitting out at times. You're going to see, the pitching choices it's just going to get weirder. And I don't know if that necessarily means the run lines are going to hit more, but it does mean we're going to get some more lopsided scores. And this is definitely a candidate for that, given the mismatch in both starting pitchers and offense. Jake, we have a total play that we like on this. We're not going to give it out. It's on Dub Club. If you want the total play for it, it's over there. I don't know what else to say. I would say it starts with a vowel, but that seems like a really jerk thing to tease, because over and under both, start with vowels.
Yeah,
it's best I can come up with.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's good. I wouldn't have thought of it. It would take me longer than I'd like to admit to catch on to that.
Yeah, I mean, the other option is it's an ER, but, I feel like it's kind of a joke. Total plays over in Dub Club. The people over there have already gotten a total play. So we're not skipping the total on purpose, but we do have a pick for it over there. And that'll take us to our last game of the night, Orioles at the Padres. Another late one here. Orioles looking strong for us right now, up in the ninth inning, 4-1. I feel like, I'm wearing the same Orioles gear as yesterday, and I feel like this discussion is the exact same as yesterday. It's like, I don't really know what's going to happen. Why are we getting plus odds with the Orioles? I mean, that's the too long, don't read, too long, don't watch version, although I think today's show will be a little bit shorter than long. But, I mean, it sets up very similarly to the game on Monday. And, again, barring something crazy happening at the end, will get us an Orioles win here. It'll be a nice night in San Diego, upper 60s. Wind will be blowing in. Going to make it a little bit more pitcher-friendly than average. Projected total on this is 7.8. The actual total I'm seeing is 8. So model would have a slight lean to the under. We'll kind of look back to that later. But again, when you look at the breakdown of these teams, Padres offense probably a little bit better. Orioles relievers better. Even the top 3 of those Orioles, when they get a lead, are just so good. And the Padres can really only counter that with Josh Hader, but they got to somehow get to the ninth inning for him to be able to hold a lead. Model says, just like yesterday, pretty much a coin toss. Padres should be slight favorites here. Michael Wacha and Jack Flaherty are pretty similar pitchers. The ERAs are drastically different. When you look at the underlying metrics, when you look at xFIP, Flaherty actually is projected to be has a better xFIP on the year than Wacha. I don't think there's a difference between these two guys. I think both of them are solid. Both of them have had some good outings. Both of them have had some shaky outings. That's why neither one of them get a great grade. I think they're both okay. The difference is the Orioles having such a good bullpen behind Flaherty gives them an advantage, whereas the Padres don't have that behind Wacha. Plus on the Orioles is the pick. Yesterday's was a C grade. Today's a B grade. I don't know. The Orioles are an A grade always in my heart, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, I think the books and stuff are still looking at all the talent that San Diego has, especially offensively. It's just not been their year. They just hadn't come together, and I think that's really helping this Orioles pricing out. Because to me, this is an easier pick when you're getting a pick against Darvish. That's always tough because he's a very good pitcher. But now you don't even have him going out the mound. You've got Michael Wacha. I think this Orioles is a lot easier pick than it was yesterday.
And we talk about the Padres. They're just, you never know what you're going to get from them. I mean, they've had some games where they've looked fantastic and put up double-digit runs. They've had a couple little, 2-game, 3-game stretches like that. They've had stretches where they're getting shut out against mediocre pitching. And you're like, if that offense, that seems impossible. The Orioles, they just keep winning. They've been doing it again ever since they called up Rutschman. And it's not to say they're a lock to win again. It's just to say there's no reason that we should be getting plus odds like this. If we're getting plus odds, it should be something like a plus 105 or something where you're like, is it really worth it? Now, would you still play the Orioles at plus 105? I don't know. Maybe if you made me pick a side, that's the one I'd pick on, but I wouldn't like it as much. Long-term, this is a great investment. And that's the thing that we're always talking about here, right? These long-term investments, especially with a money line sport, that we know that it's going to have some ups and downs, but in the long term, if we're getting good 5 cents here, 10 cents there, 15 cents here value, that adds up in a sport like baseball over the long run. It's done it for us this season. It did it for us last season. It did it for us the season before. And it's just, I don't see any reason why that stops. And this is a good value play here, along with the fact that, again, the Orioles have just been so good to us, which makes it even more fun to back a team like this that you're constantly rooting for and they're constantly coming through for you. You kind of develop a little bond with them,
Yeah. It also helps that they have just excellent uniforms. The colors, I think, are great. I love the logo. And then I just forget how big of a man Bautista is when he comes out there. He is just a big man. And I love his walkout song. There's just so much to love about the Orioles, and the fact that they're just putting so much money in our pockets this year has been great.
Other than the whole broadcasting thing, the front office, other than that's, and I know some people have lamented about like how sad it is that has kind of been overshadowing the season. Because you're right. Otherwise, it's a fun team. There's also, of course, the fear. And if you're an Orioles fan, I don't want to rain on your parade, but the fear, of course, is, are they not going to be able to lock some of those guys to long-term deals? There's so many of these young players around baseball who've been signing these long-term contracts and locking in, and it's good for both sides. As some are better for one side than the other, right? If you think about Albies, I think is the one that is playing for pennies basically, but so many of them are good because the players are going ahead and getting tens of millions of dollars early. The team save money late. It's kind of a win-win, and the Orioles definitely need to start doing this from their young talent. But it's so fun to watch this team right now. I hope they stay together because they've been so good to us. They're fun to watch. Again, not a lock, but plus odds here, just a really smart investment. Jake, is there anything left to add to our Orioles love fest?
I don't think so. I think we said it all.
I think we did too. All right, there's your recap on screen. Jake, any parting words for People's Tuesdays?
No, just other than the Dub Club, it's worth it. I mean, it just absolutely kills it with all the A grades and stuff, especially on a short slate like we had today, and then tomorrow's games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's today's, depending on what people are watching it, right? I have the same problem there. Yeah, for most people, today's games. For some people, staying up late, or depending on if you're out on the West Coast, right, it's not that late for you. Tomorrow's games, but yeah, ton of A grade plays and a few games of the lines. I think there will be even more A grade plays. We'll have a lot of A grade plays here, I think, on Tuesday to hopefully build off of what was a good Monday and a really good last week, and I think and a really good week before that. Things are just rolling here along once the calendar turns to August. So if you're not with this shit, hop on Dub Club, and again, you'll get a bunch of great football content, and that is coming right around the corner. I got the depth chart for quarterbacks, and then the rest of the week I've got to do the other positions for football, and there's a lot of them. So please don't remind me how many there are, because that's kind of depressing how much more work I have to do for those depth charts.
Yeah,
but football models are coming. They're coming. All right. Well, that's all we've got then for this episode of Picks with the Professor. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribing if you aren't already. That way you can ensure all the sports betting content for on this channel is dropped right into your feed. And back in tomorrow with more baseball betting content. But until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.